But Chris, this week I covered a fire incident at Circle behind the Royal VVIP station, and I was amazed because we've recorded one too many fire incidents in this first month of the year. Kaswa, we've seen another one to happen at Madina. We've seen another one happening at Circle recently. And I don't know whether maybe we are not taking caution, or the education may not be going down well, or there is something that is really not sinking well. Because even when you speak to the Ghana National Fire Service, when you go to these fire scenes, what they tell you is, though we came to the place early, we couldn't find our way to where the fire is happening. And I don't know whether the way the markets are structured, the layouts and all that. So it's like a bigger problem that has to be looked at. On top of all that, you see a business or an office space in the market which is on a fire hydrant. So if they are supposed to now get water to douse the flame, they would have to move to a very far place before they can get water and come and douse the flame.
Because they don't even know where the hydrant
is. They don't know where it is.
Because someone is, stationed right on the hydrant. So there's so many questions to ask with what you just said. And I think one of the pertinent ones we should ask, do people really get the education when it comes to issues of fire? So do they even know what a fire hydrant is?
Yes.
Do they know I'm not supposed to be stationed here because this is what is going to be used to save our life in times of any fire emergency?
And we don't even know if people are even able to use a fire extinguisher.
So it's education.
It goes down with education. Because when I went to Circle, what I was told is that the place that got burnt, you'd find a number of people selling phones, with ideally tiptoeing. That is a place that people will sell phones. When the NADMO coordinator for the Greater Accra region came there, Dennis, when he came there, he said that he was reliably informed that illegal connection caused that particular fire situation. And the market men or the traders there actually had to tell the same story. But we have a report on that. Let's bring you that report so you get a better understanding of what I'm talking about. When I went there and I filed the report, we will delve into this conversation further. And if we have to call the Ghana National Fire Service, we will call the Ghana National Fire Service, have a detailed conversation on it. And we will bring other authorities too on board and try and find out a lasting solution to this problem. And also, you watching us, you would want to tell us how well you are educated when it comes to fire, and are you able to quench any flame should it spark in your home today? Do you have the technical know-how? Have you been able to even acquire a fire extinguisher for your home? Then the conversation we will definitely build it up there. But let's bring you this report after we will delve deeper into the conversation. The fire, which started at about 10 a.m., raised down scores of structures of a number of traders here at the VVIP station at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. Some of the traders have been talking about the situation.
If you go to our markets, most of them are illegals because someone have this thing. He rented a place here, a shop here. Once he have this thing, meter. If he rents another place, he will make sure he wire from his place to another place. The fire service people, they are helping us. So me, I'm a witness. I witnessed them when they were going around midnight, around 3:34. I was there, but our fire extinguishers, they are empty. In the markets, our fire extinguishers are empty. We need the fire service.
When it is 1 year, they don't do rainfall.
We need the fire service and then the electricity. That's the electricity company to come and assess our lights for us. Otherwise, this thing will continually be doing.
Normally, when it happens like this, you see that there's something happening concerning wiring. They themselves may be saying it all along, that there's something wrong over here. poor wiring and all sorts of things. They say it. If you go to the stores, the shops, they'll be saying it. And I've been asking them why. You know this thing is happening. Why can't you report this thing to the authorities? And they'll start laughing. I mean, that is what I've been hearing here. I do come here to buy things.
The public relations officer of the Ghana National Fire Service, DO2 Desmond Aka, says that his men rushed to the scene to control the fire after receiving that distress call.
Initially, assessing the seat of fire was quite a challenge, and therefore, due to the rapid spread of the fire, we had to mobilize 5 tenders to come to augment with firefighting. And currently, we also have 1 water tanker also assisting us to be able to manage the situation. We have been able to save the Royal VVIP from this particular blaze, and currently I can confidently say that we have succeeded in confining the fire.
The Greater Accra Regional Director of the National Disaster Management Organization, Dennis Ajano Nate, says that it has been established that the fire situation started as a result of illegal connection. He says the fire scene has been declared a security zone.
Yes, it started because of illegal connection. There is one pole here which is sparked. It sparked the fire. So the bookman at the VIP station, he saw it and then just raised an alarm. And so before the people could say Jack, it has just started. And look at these are wooden structures. If they are permanent block structures, I don't think it would have stretched. So for now, we are declaring it a security zone for now. We don't allow them to come back. We decongest the whole place and then we see what we can do.
So that's what happened at the Royal VVIP station in the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, where fire gutted parts of the area, and people who sell there, let's say traders, lost thousands of their goods.
And money.
I saw money. Money.
I saw money.
Wow. So the big question we keep asking is that why will we be seeing these things? And often, I don't know whether the reports comes out for us to actually see what may have caused the fire incident. But if what we actually heard from the Greater Accra Regional NADMO Director, Dennis Ajano, tells you that a lot of work has to be done. And also, if really this work has to be done, is it coming from only the Ghana National Fire Service side, or other individuals would have to join? But a very good question that Chris was asking me when the report was playing was that why are the fire extinguishers empty? Desmond Aka, DO2 Desmond Aka, Head of Public Relations for the Ghana National Fire Service, is joining us via Zoom. Let's speak to him shortly. Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
I trust you are doing well, sir.
I'm well.
Thanks for joining us. So I would say this early morning on Breakfast Daily here on ChannelOne TV. But first of all, I want to find out from you, what is the update on the fire incident or the situation that happened at Circle, the VVIP station, the Royal VVIP station?
Well, so good morning to your cherished viewers. I can confirm that the fire has since Tuesday afternoon been fully extinguished, and we are also learning that the place has been cleared. What the assembly is trying to do now is to reconstruct the place, and they have asked the traders not to go ahead of them, but to wait for their instructions before they do anything there. So I believe that this time round, a lot more safety consideration and measures will be put in place before the place is reconstructed. With regards to the investigative report, I understand the investigative team, they are also wrapping up with a report to be able to issue to the Assembly for the implementations of the recommendations therein. So we would just want to give them the benefit of the doubt for them to conclude their report and forward same to the Assembly for the needful action to be done.
Share with us your challenges, the challenges you encountered to douse the flame.
Well, so the number one challenge was the late call-up. anytime we have received late calls to emergencies, by the time we get there, things would have degenerated into what we don't want to witness. So that was the number one challenge that we had. Then the number two challenge was accessibility. We had a difficult time even gaining access to where the fire was actually raging. And in professional firefighting, when you don't have direct access, then it means that you would have to spend some time to lay more hoses to get to where the fire is actually raging to be able to deal with it. And by so doing, you need to apply a lot more pressure. And in applying more pressure, because you have laid more length of hoses, technically a lot more of the water gets stuck in the hoses. And you would need more water to be able to contain a particular fire like that. And that is how come we were able to marshal as many as 5 tenders plus 2 water tankers to help us manage that particular fire. And then the third one was the too many gas cylinders and stoves that were found in that particular space. So at a point in time, intermittently as the fire raged, you could hear some explosions here and there, and that also escalated the situation. Because anytime there's an explosion, it throws the combustible gases afar, and the unburnt gases are also ignited and they propagate the fire. And in fighting such fires, it becomes very difficult to really contain it within a very small space. And then also the last challenge was the closely knit structures. This is a makeshift market predominantly made up of wooden and then metal containers. And because there was no regard for alleys, enough escape routes and exits, they had occupied virtually every space with a container or a structure. And that made the fire spread so quickly because of proximity to each other. Once this one is gutted, it is easier for it to transfer its flames and heat. And then the propagation continues because there is a chain of fuel that would help the fire to continue to rage on. Another challenge that we had initially when we got to the scene too was the haphazard connection of wires. It became apparent that let's say about 10 shops could be connected to just a meter, and they were just connecting the wires anyhow. All they cared about was to get access to electricity, but how they get it with the quality cables or whatever, they don't care. And how the wires are even connected to each other, they care less about it. And initially, it created some form of electrocution for our people until such a time we asked CCTV to isolate power from that area. And because the wires are coming from different sources, even if a particular phase or the electricity is isolated from a particular transformer, you may not be so certain because they could have all come from a different transformer or a different backup electricity flow through some of the cables. So it was dicey. But regardless of these challenges, we were able to overcome them and then deal with the fire. Just that if there were enough alleys where the fire engines could access to reach the exact spots where the fire was, we could have saved more of the structures than we did. And then also, there wasn't any hydrant within that space. And because of that, we had to mobilize 5 water tankers. Initially, before the coming in of the water tankers, we were shuffling between Paris School and then GRA office, in front of GRA office, where we could access water to the scene. And then later, the water tankers also came to help us. So if there were to be a fire hydrant, which was effective, I think we wouldn't even need more than 2 tenders. We could have even used one to manage that particular fire. So in the wake of the assembly trying to redevelop the place, I believe they would consider installing an effective hydrant there, and then also make sure there are enough escape routes and then access for emergency vehicles. And then also they could get competent, qualified electricians to do the wiring for the affected traders, and so as to be able to minimize that kind of illegal wiring connection that tends to increase the overheating and then sparks, intermittent sparks that were being witnessed in that space. So by and large, these were some of the challenges that we went through.
All right. I actually have a question concerning what you said earlier, and that's the late calls. What do you mean by late calls? And also, what do you think were the cause of the late calls? Do you think it was the people that called late, or the access to you was actually difficult? Which one is it?
All right. So for every fire situation, every second counts. A fire is better able to be managed when it is spotted within the first 5 minutes.
Oh.
So beyond the first 5 minutes, it goes into a different phase, which becomes very difficult to control. So if you listen to those who spotted the fire, and then you compare the time the call reached us eventually, you will realize that it took more than 25 minutes for them to call us.
Right.
And 25 minutes into a fire situation, I mean, a lot more would have been destroyed. And that is how come when we got there, already we had lost about 20 of the shops, and we had to struggle to cut or to check the spread of fire. And because the fire had gotten out of hand, and because of the conditions there, it really made firefighting very, very difficult. So we have always been admonishing the public that as soon as you see a fire, irrespective of whether you have obtained training or received training, any form of training, fire suppression training from the Ghana National Fire Service, because we are the professionals and we know the technical bit of handling any particular fire. Even as you try your hands in containing it, call us.
Mm-hmm.
It is better that you call us at the initial stage, at the first few minutes, let's say before the fifth, so that by the time we get there, even if you have been trained, you would have been able to bring it under control, and then we'll come and finish it up, and then investigate to know the cause to be able to use it in our public educational campaigns.
Okay, DO2, just stay on with us briefly. We want to bring in Engineer Abdullah Mahama, who is a building consultant, and this has to do with the structuring of the place and also how structures are put up at the various markets. Engineer Mahama, good morning.
Good morning, Philip.
And I trust you are doing well.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I want.
You have to borrow me. You have to borrow me your food for another program.
Oh, that's fine. Right after I'll give it to you. I want to find out from you, as a building consultant, when you see structures at various markets being gutted by fire, how do you feel, or how does this get to you?
Well, I would say a very good morning to our cherished viewers. I'm not really happy with this repetitive, unfortunate incident that happens like early year, mid-year, later part of the year, every time. I must say on authority that I think with the exception of maybe the Kidita market, which even has a few challenges, we don't have any standardized markets in Ghana. None. There's no market elsewhere, anywhere in the country, which has met all the requirements that makes it a very standard market to even operate. One of the major things that I listened to the fire service officer making mention of is that they were not having fire hydrants within the location. That is one of the major requirements when you are going to even construct a market. If you may recall, some months back, when we had the fire outbreak in Kumasi, we had the same report that the new China Mall market was so fresh that they had not finished the components like the fire hydrant and other things. And I even said that without those equipment or requirements, it wasn't supposed to be operationalized. But we were told that they were meeting a minimum requirement, i.e. having some fire extinguishers and some exit points. Now, Philip, you and your colleague,
Chris,
right?
Yeah.
You made mention of all the things that engineers have said over the years. So I'm sure that you could have just done a discussion by yourself. Of course, whatever I'm going to say, you have touched one or two of them. Where is the fire hydrant? Where is the main entrance to the place? Where are the other alternative exits? The major requirement is that when you have all these stations working or the market working, when you have an entrance, there should be another buffer. And in case you come and there's a lot of blockage, what's the next option? The woman who spoke first, the market woman, was very eloquent that the fire service guys were doing so well, but there were no, the tanks were empty. It will only be empty when there's no fire hydrant. But I think just about 2 weeks ago, I heard in one of the news that we have 235 fire tankers and 25 which were in Accra were working or running on obsolete engines. I'm sure that over the years, the government, successive government are trying, but I think we should do more to revamp that sector. And then after revamping that sector, it will only be needless if you go to the fire, where the fire is gotten out of the fire outbreak, and you can't have access to enter the place. And when your first water in the tank is emptied because of what you are doing with it, you cannot have access to the hydrant, which will be the closest proximity to be able to douse out the fire in no time. So if these are basic requirements and we don't adhere to it, we're just going to repeat this sequence every now and then. We're going to have a very terrible years when we don't deal with it. Have you seen that the climate change has drastically changed? In December and in January, we are having rainfall. We're going to have extreme drought. And when there's extreme drought, you know what the rippling effect. Yeah. So it looks like we are seeing the signs that is coming, but we are still with the same status quo. And that is not going to help us. The NADMO National Islamic Coordinator who spoke in your report, he made mention that they are going to cordon off the place and take the place a security zone. And I heard you mention, Chris also asking, where are the reports, the previous reports about the fire outbreaks, so that we can learn from it. But they said maybe some of them are attacked as assassins. And so we easily go behind some words, some jargons, and we hide what we are supposed to use at the needful. In 2024, to the run-up of the election, Cantamanto was gutted by fire, right? When the place was cordoned off, because of the political season, what happened? The same market women and women who sell in that area went and started the makeshift buildings. Everything they did there was wooden structure. They violated every bylaw in Accra. AMA were just aloof. And then people went there and they constructed 100% wooden structures. What do you expect to happen? So if the authorities do not step their feet on the ground and hold the bull by the horn and act, we'll be having series of this. In fact, I was actually at Medina Market just on the, I think, Wednesday. Yeah, when the fire outbreak, I mean, the Medina Market got fire. I was just within the neighborhood. So I just have to move with the kids and then escape from the area for safety. So it is not going to stop anytime soon. The electrical gadgets. How can we have one shop stringing a wire cable because he owns 2 shops? So he's not supposed to have 2 meters. So he strings a wire across 10 shops Who does that? So now you see, it's not only the fire service. Apart from the fire service coming to do their routine checks, you need to have the ECG going there mandatory to ensure that everybody is held accountable for whatever the person has done in their shops. So it's only proper that this report is made public so that some of us who are in that field can criticize or critique the report when it's out, and we can propose solutions to to minimize the extent of these fire outbreaks in the country. And like I said, with the exception of Kidita market, which even though is not up to 100%, there's no market in Ghana which has a minimum requirement, about 50% of the requirements operate as a market in the country.
We'll come to you to ask you what you mean by that when it comes to the standard, what we need to get to make the place standardized, and also if you think that the assemblies or the authorities may have failed in this regard. But DO2 Desmond Aka, Chris asked a very important question. Why are the fire extinguishers empty? Is it a duty of the Ghana National Fire Service to get it refilled, or the market women, or whoever is in charge of it?
Well, so I don't really understand the question, but
so I'm asking because when we went to Circle, there was a comment that the fire extinguishers they have there are empty, and I saw one of your officers make a comment like they have to refill it. So I'm asking you, whose duty is it to do the refilling and also check these things at the various markets?
All right. So it is a responsibility of property owner or the shop owner in this instance to acquire a functional or a working fire extinguisher. And therefore, at any point in time, when it is out of order, you to get it in good working order. So maybe something happened and they had to deploy the extinguisher. After deploying it, you need to get it refilled at a cost. And this has to be borne by the owner of the shop or whoever is owning that particular extinguisher. What we do is that we recommend the right type of extinguisher based on what you have in your property and what you do, the risk levels there, the hazards, so that when you get the required one, you can utilize it when the need be. And then we also give them training on the use of these fire extinguishers. But when it comes to the refilling and then the purchasing, it is a responsibility of the property owner. So we understand that some of them had the extinguishers, and initially when the fire erupted, they sent some to even deal with the situation. But because they didn't tackle the fire at the stage where it was supposed to have been tackled with the fire extinguisher, the fire extinguisher that is in there could not control the fire. Because at that point, if the fire gets out of hand, it becomes needless for you to use any potable fire extinguisher to manage it, because the fire will not budge in. Dynamics have changed. Therefore, you would need the professionals like the firefighters to come in to salvage the situation.
Right. So do you think there's enough education or sensitization programs for the people in the markets to improve public fire safety awareness?
Done a lot of education, not just the market, across all sectors. And then even in the market, the challenge there is during the daytime, during the peak hours, when you go there, they will tell you in your face, we are making money. We do fire, we are making money, we are busy. So don't come and disturb us. So this time round, we know they belong to one form of association or the other. And then during weekends, from Friday through to Sunday, we know most of them meet at the association level. Others go to mosques, others go to church. So the same message that otherwise would have given them at the market, in their shops or at their tables. We send it to them at the association meetings, at their worship centers, and then we're able to get their attention. But the problem is that culturally, the mindset of the average Ghanaian is that he or she is immune to fire. There's no way fire can gut his or her property. And therefore, we are not safety conscious. We tend to fear thieves and therefore give much more premium to our security. This is a national thing. It's a cultural thing that has eaten into the mindset of the Afghan. And therefore, they care less about what happens to their property or their wares. You know, they think that, let me get a shop in the market, let me stock it with whatever wares, let me make my money and enjoy my life. They don't think that the huge investment that they have incurred in getting the shop, in stocking it up, there has to be safety consideration even in stocking the shop. Most of them have turned their shops into warehouses, which is dangerous, depending on the kind of material that you are even storing in your shop. If you do the stocking with disregard to the basic stocking protocols, without even the introduction of external heat source, depending on the material, if they are organic base, if they are introduced to heat and there is no proper ventilation, some of them can automatically ignite without any external heat source. And this is what we are being confronted with. So not until we all decide that we want to be serious with our personal safety, we want to be serious with our wares in the market, we want to be serious as authorities responsible for managing these markets to ensure that all the bylaws within the market, such as no cooking in the market, no sleeping in the market, and all those no illegal wiring connections and what have you, if those things are not enforced, we will continue to have this conversation. But I think also that even though we have done a lot more education and the available statistics, we have recorded a little over 30% in out on arrival cases nationwide per 2025 statistics. And that is telling us that at least a section of the populace are now getting the whole gist. They are being assertive about their own personal safety, and they are willing to put in place the basic fire safety measures on their property. And to the extent that when the fire also erupts within or on their property, they are able to master courage, and based on what we have given them or taught them over the period, are able to subdue the fire. And therefore the impact of the fires have been very, very minimal.
Right.
And that notwithstanding, I think we as a regulatory body has to also do more in terms of probably changing some of the strategies for reaching out to the public, and then probably adding one or two tweaks to our educational messages, and more importantly, getting the needed resource.
Right. So, talking about resource, do you think there's actually a legal or logistical gap when it comes to enforcing compliance? You're a serviceman, and obviously servicemen also have the right to sort of like enforce some sort of compliance when it comes to the areas that you manage. Do you think the fire service, actually has that right to enforce compliance?
My sister, it's not that I think. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to resource the Ghana National Fire. The state would have to be able to resource the Ghana National Fire Service, at least, with some utility vehicles mounted with PA systems. Even though we are doing much, if you go to the various markets within the Greater Accra region, we have even put some audio messages on pen drives that we have given to the various market managers that they play at the peak hours in the morning and in the evening before the market is closed. But we still need these utility vehicles mounted with PA system with projectors and screens, such that it will enable us to move to every available space, be it in the night, now that we want to even operate the 24-hour economy. We have some night markets elsewhere. So if we have the projectors, that is where we can interact. In the night, even though people will be buying stuff, but it will not be as busy as during the day. And therefore, if we have these projectors, we could mount them, show them some of the things that they do that create these fires, create the needed awareness, change perception, so that they can appreciate it. There's another form of education where the person sees the thing physically, you see physically, and that is able to change the way he thinks or she thinks about certain things, and then that can affect attitude change. But we don't have the utility vehicles. Go to the regions. The whole city department will have just one vehicle. So, for instance, if Greater Accra has one vehicle for public education for safety purposes, and we have to do education just within, let's say, Tesano. Look at how vast Tesano is. How many weeks, how many months do you think that we'll be able to do that education? Wow. So that kind of logistical gap still exists.
Okay, DO2, so hold on a bit for us. We will still come back to you. Let me speak to Engineer Abdullahi Mahama quickly, and we'll let him go. Engineer Abdullahi, you said most of the markets, except for KJT, meets the standard. What are the standards? And also, do you think that the various assemblies are doing their job right when it comes to the way we get locations for bigger markets or where markets are situated?
Well, the last time we met, you told me that the jargons I gave, we are going to practice civil engineering. So I'm sure you've already started. Because the first point you made was the zoning. That's what the special plan will call it, zoning status. Are we supposed to have markets everywhere or anywhere at all? Or is it because 1, 2, 5, 10 people came to start some markets somewhere, so we are compelled to let the place become a market? When it comes to any market across the country, there's what we call zoning. Is this area zoned to be a market hub or a mini industrial hub? Does it qualify, depending on the buildings around that area, which may be emitting some toxics that may not be friendly for people who are within the area? You can't go to maybe Seti Steel, our homes in Tema, or some of the areas where chemicals are being used. And because 1, 2, 3 people just started some markets, makeshift market around the place, it metamorphosed into a very big one. And then we are compelled to now make the place a market. So we go now and rush behind the fact that it has already started, and we construct a market there to suit the people who are there. One of the first things you have to know when you are doing the market is the zoning. The second one is that every market you are supposed to construct must be robust. Now, in this case, is this robust? The structure must be very fixed. And then when it comes to fire, what happened in Kumasi and Accra, most of the fire outbreak, the design of those buildings must be able to stand a minimum of about maybe 1 hour before the buildings suddenly collapse or get into that failed state. Which of the buildings or which of the structures do we have in Accra which can stand a 15-minute fire outbreak without that structure being described as a fail, or structural integrity has recommended that those structures should be brought down? So the basic one, and then circulation. My colleague was making mention of the fact that some of the areas have, when they go, some of the shops have turned to warehouses. Was that the intended purpose? I can just give you one example and you can relate. When the Malcolm disaster happened in 2012, one of the findings was that the last floor had been turned to a warehouse, thereby exerting so much load on the structure, because it may be for like a design which was like human beings and fuel structures. But if you go there and you turn the place to be a warehouse where you are quadrupling the weight that is expected to experience or that's supposed to experience. This is what you're going to have. And then when you turn the places to be warehouses, then the other requirement under the standard market requirement is that the place has to be accessible, spacious, and circulating enough so that air can circulate within that area so that it doesn't congest fire before it comes out as a surprise. I am thinking that I'm sure it will be like something that will be aired today. What I'm thinking is that if we even start the 24-hour market, just maybe the night outbreak of fire will be drastically minimized if about 60-80% of activities are still within the night where there are human market women and men and other people who are patronizing. I'm quite sure that because of the presence of more people who may be active there, we will not be woken suddenly in the morning to say that when the fire started, there were fewer people within the area to alert others to try to gush out the fire, to control the fire before bringing in the fire service or any other people who are within the area to control the fire. So I'm quite sure that if it is greatly introduced and we even go by the minimum vigilante in sense of the fact that people will be there to be working, where people will not be cooking, and then the whole place is empty. So 1, 2, 3 people are cooking, but the place is dark. Everybody has gone home. We may have some of this, but if there are people present, actively working, I'm sure that some of this may also be drastically reduced. But I just give it a requirement. The place has to be spacious and accessible. You have to have the fire hydrant. The building have to be very robust. Of course, I don't have any of the building being robust, apart from KJTA and maybe Old Mokola Market and few others. Any other one is not robust. The buildings should be able to resist fire outbreak. And I don't think those buildings there will be able to resist fire outbreak within 15 to like 2 hours. None of them. So these are the requirements that you need. But the most important one here is what I spoke about. The fire resistance, and then the zoning that you rightly mentioned. The zoning is very important in all these things.
Right. So, engineer, in your opinion, where is the biggest gap? You've mentioned everything, but where is the biggest gap? Do you think is weak enforcement, corruption, or just lack of awareness?
It's enforcement. It's like there's a section who are recalcitrant. No matter what, they wouldn't act. Just like the PRO was saying. When you go, he said they are supposed to recommend for empty fire extinguishers to be refilled. It's not a recommendation. They are supposed to enforce. When you come to the shops and the extinguishers are empty, they're not supposed to recommend them. You are supposed to enforce them. You are compelling them to go and refill immediately, because anytime there will be a fire outbreak. You cannot determine that, okay, today there will not be fire. Looking at the weather, there will be any fire outbreak. Nobody has that prediction. So at every time, you are supposed to be ready. So when the fire service get to the market, and then even 3 people or 3 market owners don't have their fire extinguishers, the fire may start from there. So nobody knows about it. So it's a requirement from the it's an enforcement that the fire service have to compel the people to go. It's not they don't recommend. They have to enforce. And then there are penalties that will go with it. So if the people do not compel, they have to enact they have to act on the bylaws that they have, and then they initiate proceedings.
Right. So do you think ECG is also supposed to be part of this fight, especially when it comes to the illegal connections? And I'm thinking, if there have been issues of illegal connections with, one person using one wire to connect some of his shops or so many of his shops just because he or she does not want to have like an extra meter, do you think ECG should also be part of this fight?
Yeah. I said it earlier when I made my first submission. The ECG are supposed to be there to constantly check. Let's say it can be routine, either it's bi-monthly or every month or twice in every quarter. They have to go in and be checking how these wires have been connected, whether legal or illegal. Then the assembly plays a pivotal role. You see, one of the things which is problem is that the assemblies are torn between internet generated funds. The more they have congestions of market workers who are working, the more they are internet generated funds, because they give them this ticket every day. So they are torn between taking an action or getting their monies to run their assemblies with the internet generated fund. But we cannot run the assembly at the expense of everybody's life. So the assembly plays one, the assembly has a task force. The fire service plays two. If the fire service are incapable of acting or enforcing, they are by law or by a convention required to extend to request for a helping hand with the police or the military or any other force, the forces or the services provider who can come in and ensure that they cumulatively they get these issues remedied or rectified, so that everybody will be compelled to go by the regulations that the market have set for everybody within the neighborhood.
Engineer Abdullah Mahama, thank you so much for your time. We are always grateful that when you call on you hit to our calls. We know you have other engagements, so we'll release you here. But the Public Relations Officer for the Ghana National Fire Service, DO2, Desmond Aka, please stay with us. We want to find out from you, the year has just begun. We're in the month of January. Maybe the incidences we have seen on TV or we have recorded wouldn't be the same numbers you have. How many infernos have you recorded this month?
All right. There's this thing that I want to correct. I don't think I made in any of my submission that we must recommend for the refilling. I said we recommend to the traders or the shop owners the right kind of extinguisher to buy, because the risk levels and the hazards are different for each of the shops. But when it comes to the refilling, it's their responsibility. And if they fail, it is also our responsibility to ensure that they do the right, so correct that assertion. So with regards to the numbers that we have recorded so far, I believe that we have done better as compared to last year, same period. Last year, around this time, we had recorded a little over 800 fires.
Last year, just in the month of January?
Yes.
800?
Yes, please.
Wow. So what of this year?
800. So this year, we have recorded just a little over 400.
Just a little over 400, and today is 23rd of January.
Country.
Wow.
So these fires include domestic, that is residential fires, commercial fires, bush fires, and all the other types of fires, electrical installation, those that affect our substations, our transformers, utility poles, and vehicles, as well as refuse dump, institutions, industry, and even tree tops that we call crown fires. We still record some of those fires. So cumulatively this year, we are doing quite better. And this is attributed to our intensified efforts. If you have been following us on our socials, we have really churned out a lot more educational content, especially with the use of LPG gas, cylinder, and stoves. Because we have realized that that is one of the leading causes of fires in this country. But the number one leading cause of fire is misuse of electricity and electrical appliances. That ranks one on top of our list, followed by the misuse of gas. And for we have put together content, educational materials, especially for those of us on social media, to kind of prep them on how best and safe ways to use these two components, electricity and gas. And I believe that when we are able to push the message out there and the people accept it, we're able to drastically reduce the number of fires, hopefully in the coming months. Another factor that is also disturbing us is changing weather. You realize because of the advent of climate change, global warming, where, especially last year, for instance, we were expecting rains in June, July, September thereabout. But the rains didn't come as much as we wanted. So those are the periods that we record low numbers of fires. But you realize that comparatively, we saw some spikes in those months. And therefore, we are also being careful, especially this year. Now that we are even experiencing, where I live, even yesterday, we had rain. So meaning that the weather is becoming very unpredictable. And therefore, Ghanaians should be much more awake. If they were burning refuse anyhow within their backyard, they should reconsider. If their lives are over 30 years and more, they should reconsider getting an electrical engineer, a certified contractor, or electrician, competent one, of course, certified by Energy Commission, to do the rewiring, such that because those who are certified by the Energy Commission, if they come to do your wiring installation and there's a problem, you can sue them. And therefore, they wouldn't want to put their license or profession on the line. Therefore, they are always committed in doing the right thing. But those that are contracted to do the shoddy works in the market, they are the amateur ones. They know next to nothing. And that is because their services are cheap. People prefer waiting for them, and they will come and do anything. And at the end of the day, there is superheating, there is loose contact, there is short circuit, and it creates problems for everybody. So this is the outlook of the fire situation and the trend. I believe that in the coming days, we would release the statistics for 2025 and all be privy to the details, and that would also inform us to be more safety conscious in this year.
Wow. You made mention of you having a little over 400 cases just this month. How have you been deploying your men to these places?
Well, so we have, apart from the residential, what we call home safety campaigns, campaign task force, we also have the market task force. We also do the night market patrols. And then we do the schools outreach, the lorry parks, and all the other public places, and then the institutions. That one is mandatory every year or twice in a year. We do it for the various institutions across the country. And therefore, that has really helped us. We are doing these things under serious constraints. But you see, these are some of the things that sometimes when we go out of our way to do this for Ghana, to serve the state, and people still want to insult us for their failures. Maybe there's a fire, getting the right number to even call the Ghana National Fire Service is a problem. Even though we have put our numbers, we continue to put our numbers even on our socials. Every now and then, anytime I get the opportunity, I put the number. But yes, still, because people think it has been ingrained in their brain that, oh, fire there, they cannot get my property. I am immune to fire. And therefore, they are not too careful about some of these basic things. And they will not call us early. We will come there to save them, then vandalize our vehicle, beat our men on top. And it so happens that we get people not to even talk for us. And just last 2 weeks or so, there was an incident that people misunderstood. And look at the insult that was even rained, even on my person. Even on my person. What has Ghana National Fire Service done? The state has neglected us. You have not resourced us adequately. We are using our personal vehicles. We are buying fuel into our personal vehicles. And we are going to schools at our own expense just to be able to educate the ordinary Ghanaian, just for the person to understand that, hey, fire is a good master, but when you don't observe its rules, it can become a bad servant for you. And therefore, you need to be ready. And look at the treatment. So we need to change our attitude. If we want Ghana National Fire Service to be a world-class emergency service, then all of us, we have responsibility towards our personal safety. If we think that safety only lies in the bosom of Ghana National Fire Service, then we are deceiving ourselves. We have to be ambassadors of safety in our homes. What kind of extension cords are we using? Are the extension cords that we are using properly rated for the load? That is the electrical appliances that we are placing them on. If not so, there will be overheating. The fire will come. Have we passed cables, wires under our carpet? Are we working on the cables such that with time the insulation will become hardened, they break, they expose the conductors in, they come together and then they spark offline? Are we hitting nails through conduit wiring? You know, there are some wiring that they've done within the building. They are within the home and they have been plastered and painted. So if you are new to that building and you don't know the kind of wiring there, you can be placing nails just to be hanging your stuff, and that is dangerous. Those nails could puncture those conduit wires and create what we call arc fault. And those fires take time to develop. And once they are developed, they become very difficult to deal with.
Wow.
Right.
We'll soon be wrapping up with you, but tell us a bit about the fire incident at Medina. What is the update with that incident there?
Right. So we are understanding that there is an electric which has too many wires by the shop that started or that ignited first. So periodically it will spark off. But surprisingly, they never reported it. If they had reported it to the fire service, probably would have also informed the ECG to check on it. So the fire so happened just after there was a power outage. So just after the power was restored, the fire started in one of the shops. But because we were called in early enough, it took us 2 minutes to move from Medina Fire Station to the place. And because they did the calling within the first 5 minutes, we were able to save 2 shops out of the 3. We were able to save 2 of the shops, like that the damage there was not as much as the first one, which we lost everything. So early calls save lives.
Right.
Because minimizes damages. So we always advocate and advise Ghanaians that the number remains 112. We've not changed it. But the fortunate thing is that over the years, people still play pranks with this line. This is an emergency number. It is just as you have activated call with on your phone. So if you are on a line with somebody and someone else is calling, you will see that somebody is calling. If you have not ended the first call, you cannot pick the second person. And that is how the emergency lines operate. So we continue to play with the emergency line. At the same time, we should not forget that somebody may be in that need of our services, and that person will be denied. His life will be at risk. His properties will be destroyed by the fire. So I don't wonder who think their school fees. They are taking care of their family. They will take a and call and ask that we should give him credit or whatever.
What, you receive messages like that? You receive calls like that?
I am telling you, just ask Emmanuel Ayima. The last time he had the experience, he came to our call center, and it was just appalling. And some parents who are so careless that they leave their phones in the hands of their children, who would also call and make fun of us. What is this? Last 4 years, we were recording prank calls annually, about 1.2 million. And we intensified our education on the dangers in that. And that has significantly reduced from 1.2 to last year about 350,000 prank calls. And still, even though we have recorded a little over 30% reduction last year, numbers are still huge, 350 prank calls a year.
Right.
It's on the high side. So if we don't want to change our attitude, if we decide not to support the Ghana National Fire Service, we are going through difficult situations to be able to bring our emergency services to the ordinary Ghanaian. Therefore, we expect them just to be able to put in place the basic. Safety is not anything abstract. It is just the basic things that we need to do. Everybody can do it. What is it that we are not doing it? And when the fires occur, we want to heap all the blame on Ghana National Fire Service.
Right.
If a company is failing to build the hydrant, is failing to pump water through the hydrant, we put on the Ghana National Fire Service. What at all has Ghana National Fire Service done to Ghanaians to deserve this kind of society?
Okay, so obviously you are doing your best, but have you thought of, partnering with the media or community leaders to actually support the fire service in public awareness? I mean, you're doing your best, like you said. You also talked about using social media, but have you thought of, probably joining with the media or community leaders on, say, a campaign or some sensitization exercises?
My sister, just last week in Atebubu, Amanting, in the Bono East region, their fire truck has broken down for some time. They have moved to every communication center, or what they call community information center, and then radio stations there, to announce that our fire engine has broken down. Management is fixing it. But until then, try as much as possible to be cautious with the use of naked light, not to set the bush on fire and your unattended cooking and all that. They have told them. And there was this fire in one of the houses. Even though they called the fire service late, our men went there with portable fire extinguishers just to see if, in case, they could even handle the fire. And the people got annoyed. Why is it that they came with fire extinguishers but didn't come with a tender? Meanwhile, we have told them. And they did them. They did them. I mean, is that fair?
No.
Is that fair? Is that fair?
DO2, I want to find out from you how the inspection, prior to you giving or a particular house getting the permit, what really is the inspection like to ensure that that house has the fire hydrant? That's the fire, the extinguisher, and also the various markets. What is the inspection like? Meanwhile, we'll be opening the phone lines shortly, so viewers can also join us with their experience with fire outbreak, among other things. The call line will be put on the screen shortly. So, DO2, you can go ahead.
Well, my brother, the law requires that every homeowner must get his or her property a fire certificate. And by means of getting the fire certificate, we will do the inspection and help you with some safety protection equipment, including the fire extinguisher. So the number of fire extinguishers to get in your property will depend on the size of the area and the risk levels there or the hazards there. So if your floor area is that big, then it means that you may get 2 or more fire extinguishers within that space. And depending on what you are doing or using the property for, will also determine even the size of the extinguishers to even get. Apart from the extinguishers, you are also required to have smoke alarms and then signages, because you could be able today, tomorrow you could be disabled. Sometimes you could not hear. You can also not speak, and therefore there could be signs with inscriptions that could also give directions or with some information, so that even the person, if the person is disabled in one way or the other, and the person can see the inscriptions and then follow the instructions thereon to be able to save his or her life. So that one is done. But we are not getting the cooperation. A lot more people are still not bringing their drawings or coming for the fire certificates, of which it is going to require us to enforce that particular law, of which we're going to do that. And then also, apart from these extinguishers, the markets too it behoves on every trader or shop to also have this kind of extinguisher. But the challenge has always been the cost.
Yeah.
Even though it is not too expensive, depending on the size, it ranges from, let's say, 100 Ghana cedis, let's say, up to about 6 kg, up to about 500 cedis.
Yeah.
But still, the ordinary Ghanaian feels that it is still expensive, and therefore, coughing 500 or 300 or 200 to acquire a potable fire extinguisher is a problem. And sometimes, because of the human face that we give to some of these things, we want to give people enough room to be able to save and get them. And that is how come sometimes you would see that places where they are supposed to get these extinguishers, smoke alarms and what have you, they don't actually have. And we try to kind of sympathize and to ensure that with time they are able to get. But it is becoming, how do you call it, our culture not to be able to enforce some of these things. So I believe going forward, we would put the human face somewhere and then deal with the matter as it is, so that at least the minimum safety cover would be enforced to ensure that people are better able to deal with fires when they come with these portable devices.
DO2 Desmona Aka, thank you so much for your time. He is the Public Relations Officer for the Ghana National Fire Service. He has extensively on the fire situation at various markets and also the challenges that they face as Ghana National Fire Service. Also, we spoke to Engineer Abdullahi Mahama, who was a building and road consultant, specifically to tell us what he makes of the situation at various markets where the Ghana National Fire Service often complains that we don't have the layout so we can douse the flame and all that. But he also indicated that almost all the markets, except for what he knows as KJTR, do not meet the standard. So what really is the standard? We'll have to sit down and work around it and get that conversation going. So in the near future, we do not have fire situations happening. But Chris, over 400 cases, fire situation just in the first month of the year, and the month hasn't even ended. But I think this is better because what he said is the previous year, the month of January, same period, they recorded 800.
800. So this is half.
Half of it.
Yeah.
But we still need a lot.
But that's a lot still. That's still a lot.
A lot more work has to be done.
And I think I really, I don't want to use the word pity them, but I really feel for them. Because in all honesty, after listening to him, I think they're really doing their best.
Yeah, a lot of work.
To help the country. And people in the country also do not see that they are doing their best. So I think it's time for people to give them grace, understand what they do. And
the prank calls should end.
Apart from the prank calls, attacking them is a problem.
Yeah, it's also another problem.
Let's not forget that they are also humans. Yeah. Apart from being humans,
and they're doing their work.
Do you understand? Yeah. And they're also law enforcers. At the end of the day, they're trying to also protect you from fire.
Well, this is, but we will keep the conversation going. Maybe in the course of the show, we will come back to it and give you the chance to also call us and tell us what you make of fire outbreak, your experience and all that, if we should have time. But for now, let's take a quick break.